folks, yes, they want fighters. They also want brawlers and not betrayers. A lot of people feel betrayed by a party that doesn't seem to show that they're willing to fight. Knowing that things can be better and we deserve to be able to do bold, challenging things and hard things, that in itself is an act of resistance.
Friend of the show, Ryan, and Ryan Clancy, state representative, Francesca Hong, state representative in Wisconsin, our Sewer Socialist champions.
Yes.
Awesome. And thanks for having us, Mike. And I wanted to just start out by, I want to intro Fran in a second here, but I wanted to thank you very specifically and all your subscribers. So like last year, a little more than a year ago, I was in a really contested primary. We were facing a ton of money. We had Zionists, we had a police union, and we had a ton of really powerful and well-moneyed established Dems, some of whom are now running for governor in Wisconsin, all against, me and our campaign. It ended up being a $500,000 primary with all the spending, and things looked really dire. And then Mike, I went on your stream and the money was great, right? But more than that, I had that Act Blue map up of where all the donations were coming in from around the country, and that was transformational, and that really gave me a shot in the arm, and it went from being me being under assault to knowing that folks across the country had our back. The other thing that made all the difference was the support of my comrade and friend, Representative Fran Hong, because it would have been really easy for her to just not stand up to all that, but she did. She had support, she had advice, she put together independent expenditures, and we pushed back on that, and we ended up defeating our terrible opponent by a decent margin. And we could not have done that without you, Mike, without all your subscribers, and without Fran. So today I'm here for her, and Fran Hong is a badass. She's a chef, she's a bartender. This is her third term in the Wisconsin State Assembly. She's a leader in our Socialist caucus and the first Asian American woman in Wisconsin legislative history. And she's led movements in the legislature for immigrant defense, trans rights, a ceasefire in Gaza. And with your help, she's going to be the next governor of Wisconsin and the first socialist governor in U.S. history. But she needs your support to do that. And that's why I'm here to support her today. And thank you, Mike.
Oh, Ryan, I appreciate you guys sharing the credit, but I am nothing but a dust speck compared to the hard work that you guys put in, because I know how hard it is to be a left winger in America. And so you guys, me being a small part of your guys' success has meant a lot to me.
Oh, that's very kind of you to say, Mike. I'm so excited to be here. It's an honor to chat with all of your subscribers. And thank you so much, Ryan, for that very kind introduction. I learned so much from Ryan and our comrades in the Socialist Caucus every day, not just about policies that we need to be passing to ensure that every single Wisconsinite has their basic needs met and can actually do more than get by, but take care of themselves and their loved ones well. But also it's the Socialist Caucus that helps me just deal with the fuckery of the legislature. It is very easy to lose pieces of yourself and who you are when you are in a space where, people are trying to sometimes just almost destroy. So it's because of the Socialist Caucus that I care more about this work, and I get to take care of myself too.
Yeah, well, thank you guys so much for coming on. I appreciate the kind words, but I really want to know what has motivated you guys to make that bid for governor, because state rep to governor is a big leap. Why have you decided that now is the time to do so?
Because this is a movement moment, and socialists are some of the best organizers, and that's what we need to be doing across the state. And it's us that's going to be uniting folks and building working class people power. And so this is the time for someone like me to be able to lead the state and do it in a way where we're not just fighting for people, but we're fighting alongside them.
Yeah, no, I agree with with you completely. And I feel like one of the big crises that we're facing, and I hate to make things national politics, but, you know, it is what it is. We have, you know, as I mentioned before, the Mahmoud Khalil, you know, deportation order, basically because he led the pro-Palestine movement at Columbia, or one of the leaders, I should say. And then you have Jimmy Kimmel being fired for, I'm not really sure what, if you know, I don't know if you guys have seen the clip. I'm not asking you to endorse it. I'm just saying that we have a moment where political control of media, corporations, and the government are all aligning with Donald Trump in a fascistic way. At the same time, public support for Donald Trump has never been lower. And it seems like the Democratic Party is not taking advantage of that. It's almost like they're hiding under their beds. So what are you guys going to do to take the fight to Trump? And are you planning, if you are elected governor, to use the powers of the governor's office to oppose Trump and the federal government and any other fascistic efforts in this country?
It's going to be the people of Wisconsin that elect me to be their governor. And that means I have a duty and a responsibility to make sure that the people are protected. And I'm willing to put my body on the line because the urgency of this moment, when fascism is taking control of so many of our communities, means that you need someone that is going to do everything they can to make sure that people can still live their lives. And I think too many Democrats right now are not meeting the urgency of this moment because they're out of touch when it hasn't actually impacted their life yet. And so folks are fucking pissed, and they have every right to be. And people of Wisconsin, they hustle. They work so hard, multiple jobs, and it's still getting harder and harder to get by because of also fascist policies that have ripped on our public education systems, made it harder to get childcare. And so it's socialists who are going to be talking about universal policies because it is a universal issue when it comes to these things that we need. And so it's raining fascism, and we've got a rainy day fund. And I don't want to have a leader in Wisconsin that's not willing to do everything they can to make sure that we are no longer relying on incrementalism. We are making sure that the people have what they need to protect themselves as well.
Fran has really been leading on this. I'm going to brag on her behalf for just a minute. She has been fighting in ways that other Dems in Wisconsin really haven't. 2 weeks ago, she led up a package that was the Keeping Families Together package that would push back on ICE. Literally just minutes ago, the Socialist Caucus, with Fran's leadership, released a police accountability package called Freedom from Fear. So pushing back on all this, on the actual fascism coming from the national level in a way that a lot of the establishment Dems haven't. So that is both, you know, a brag for Fran, but also her path to victory, right? We have a crowded pack of very moderate contenders, and then we have somebody who has proven herself at the state level to be on the side of actual working people and opposed to fascism.
From what I understand, you guys have set up the Wisconsin Legislative Socialist Caucus, right? And you have basically been a thorn in the side of the milquetoast Democrats and forcing them to be better. That's the thing. It's not that you guys are just gadflies that are out there saying you guys are stupid. You're actually pushing them to get better. Do you guys have any legislative accomplishments or initiatives that you're focused on right now that highlight, you know, how efficacious you are both in messaging and, if possible, legislative victories?
I was in Stevens Point a couple of weeks ago, and when one of our colleagues who represents that area talked about the people being disappeared, neighbors in their community fearing for getting their, having their families be ripped apart. And when he mentioned the Keep Family Together package, he got a roaring applause. And so we are introducing bill packages that do make our colleagues better, that make them better representatives. The policing package, the, tenants' rights protections, ending solitary confinement, introducing these pieces of legislation actually makes people realize that it's the job of government to ensure people can take care of themselves. And so it's about not just about pulling people left, but actually making them better legislators too, because they actually can understand what some of the struggles their communities are dealing with.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Can you talk about some of your main platform positions that you're carrying forward into the primary, and why you think they're so important and why they are winners in a swing state like Wisconsin?
Fully funding our public schools. Public schools are the absolute heart of our communities. And when we have strong public schools, we have strong communities. Republicans in our state and across the country are ripping apart public education because it is the last remaining democratic institution. So fully funding our public schools, universal childcare, access to childcare, especially in rural areas right now, is getting harder and harder, and more childcare centers are closing. Guaranteeing paid leave for workers. Was so proud to have the Socialist Caucus stand with me when we introduced paid leave for all. We when we talk about public banks and some stuff that's what is in North Dakota right now. People are able to see that it's possible for small business owners to actually take care of their workers and have access to capital with a public bank. And then care infrastructure. We do not think about how important it is to make sure our care workers have fair wages and good working conditions. Our seniors need to, age with dignity. Folks in the disability community who are having Medicaid ripped away because of the Trump regime. We can actually meet those moments meet the needs of those folks by investing in care, because we will all need care at some point. And so when we say for all on these policies, that's what we mean. They should be cheaper, they should be accessible, and they should be free.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. That sounds like the type of platform that I think we've been missing in this party for a long time, in the Democratic Party, or giving something that people could constructively believe in, as opposed to a force that they're scared of. Something that draws new people in, not just a conversation to be had that people who are already politically engaged. Have you guys drawn any inspiration from the mayoral candidacy of Zohran Mamdani or other,
Absolutely.
Wisconsin races?
I think Zohran's campaign is actually very much rooted in joy and care. You see him sharing some of the most, talking with community members who never really, maybe they've never even seen a candidate come through. He is building a multiracial, multi-ethnic, multi-generational coalition. He is living the by the people, for the people principles that Americans used to believe in, and now they can. And so being unapologetic about the genocide in Gaza, talking about how everyone deserves to live in the city that they love and have it be affordable. I mean, Dems have struggled so much to talk about the issues that all Americans care about. And not only is the Mamdani campaign doing in a way that is also accessible, they're making sure that they're sharing the stories of actual working class people in New York who can talk about why these policies are so important and how they deserve to have better lives, and they should have a government that is a force of good and support them in that work. And he's running an organizing first campaign. I mentioned earlier that socialists are some of the most they're strongest organizers. And so when you have an organizing first campaign like ours, we're investing first in field as opposed to bringing in field organizers later and giving them go ahead, try to do everything you can to bring these people in to vote. We have to build out a field infrastructure that is sustainable. So regardless of what happens in the primary, in the general election, the left has the organizer infrastructure that is going to be sustainable, because more people across the state are going to be in this movement, and they're going to have ways that they can stay connected with other left organizers who feel, somewhat more isolated in their community because there aren't as many progressives. But they're going to have resources and support and community when we have an organizing first campaign. That's going to make sure that we have, movement work happening, because it's not just going to be one administration that's going to help make sure that Wisconsin is better. It's going to take work and organizing, and that has to be led by a socialist.
And I was a late convert to being excited for Zohran. Like it was
Yeah.
only like literally a couple of, because I loved him from the beginning. Like I've met him, in our little socialist circles and all that. But I couldn't bring myself to hope that he was going to win until I did
Yeah.
call time for him maybe 2 weeks before the election, and I talked to people and realized how excited they were. Fran just launched her campaign yesterday. I've literally never seen anything like it. My entire feed, everybody I'm talking to on the street is already excited because Fran's been in our community. She's been all around the States. And I've never seen anything like this. It is really inspiring.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I think though, if I had one piece of advice to give you guys, it would be to lean into Gaza and to lean into the fact that you are not just pro-Palestinian, you're anti-AIPAC. You're anti the idea that there's some sort of foreign government is going to interfere in our politics, and that you're focused on Wisconsin, but that your position on Gaza is a side of your conscience and your decision to stand up for what's right, not what is politically viable or considered politically viable by the political class. And work extra hard in drawing those distinctions. That's my piece of advice for you. I think the reason why Zohran was able to win, to go from 1%, was obviously he had a good campaign, but because he was able to draw that contrast and be the clear candidate of the pro-Palestinian movement of young people, that was, to me, the catalyst that led to his victory. And I hope you guys, I think a lot of centrist Democrats are going to try to hedge. They're going to try to be like, well, I'm against Netanyahu, or I'm against what's going on. It's a humanitarian disaster, etc. But fundamentally, they're not going to take that extra step that only you can take. So I hope you don't feel like, I think it's the path to victory. I don't think it's just morally right alone. I think it's also the path to victory because everybody else is going to be this undifferentiated mass and you're going to be the only principled candidate. And I think what people want more than anything is someone that is principled, who's going to stand up to Trump, who's going to stand up to the right, and who's going to stand up to what's going on that's evil in the world. We want leaders for a change. So not to preach at you guys too much. I know it's supposed to be a conversation. I just really want to impress upon you, from my perspective, talking to socialists and left-wingers and young people and not so young people all over the country. They're all united in this view, so I believe in you guys, and that's why I'm so excited that you're here. What are your concerns going forward? Like, are you concerned about Donald? Like, assume you win, let's go to that fantasy world where you're the next governor. What are you going to do to counter the fact that the Democratic Party is going to join with Donald Trump to try to sabotage your administration and is going to try to, force you into these impossible situations? Are you concerned about things like blue flu? Are you concerned about other kinds of ways that the fascist movement in this country is going to try to contain your common sense policies because they're worried about the good example? Have you thought about this? Are you concerned about it?
There are a lot of people who are scared right now, and how you meet collective fear is with collective moral courage. And I realized that right away with introducing the ceasefire resolution, making sure that, we had a strong uninstructed movement, the Listen to Wisconsin uncommitted movement in the April of 2024. And in terms of, the establishment, Dems and the fascist regime throwing everything they have at us, I know that Wisconsinites want a leader who has moral courage and is going to be fighting. And that means ensuring that when a bill comes to my desk, when I'm Governor Hong, and it is too incremental and doesn't actually address the material conditions of making sure that people have what they need, especially with rising costs and things being more affordable, I don't want to sign that. I think folks are going to know that they're going to have to present one of them like comprehensive transformative legislation. Again, I mean it when I say incrementalism is irresponsible. We have a, a very healthy rainy day fund, and it's raining fascism right now. We need to be innovative, creative, risk tolerant, and make sure that, yes, we are responsible with focusing on also things that are going to bring in more revenue, like finally fucking taxing the billionaires in our state, fair taxation, cheaper healthcare. These are things that are absolutely possible. And I'm going to push the legislature to make sure that what is needed for the people of Wisconsin is transformative policy that's actually going to change and improve their lives.
And I want to keep Fran from being too humble here too. She mentioned very briefly like supporting the uninstructed movement, which is our
uncommitted.
The Wisconsin version of uncommitted here in Wisconsin. Right. Fran led on that, and it was not during 2025 when that's easier and when even mainstream folks are saying yes, it's a genocide. She was out in front of that at great political risk to herself, and even now is out in front of. We're one of the states where you can't boycott Israel, so she's leading against pushing back on that. The Republicans, with the help of legislative Democrats, are trying to redefine anti-Semitism to include criticism of Israel and jailing people for a longer time than it would normally get for that. And Fran has been leading courageously on all those things.
Yeah, and I want to thank you guys. Obviously, if you're talking to me, I know that you're on the right side of these issues because I have been loud and annoying about this stuff since October 10th. Honestly, on October 7th, I was like, it seems to be like they're gearing up for some sort of really repressive response. And then when you saw what the officials leading the Israeli government were saying, it was clear they had genocidal intent very early on. And then the way they have denied international journalism, the way they have targeted humanitarian organizations. I mean, this is really unprecedented. You have to go back to the 40s with the fascist movements to really see anything that can compare to the breadth and the intentionality of targeting international observers, institutions, journalists. More journalists have been killed in Gaza than were killed in all of World War II, as an example. Like this is an unprecedented time. And I think that the one thing that I would say is that I feel like people are calling for leadership. They're calling for people that are comfortable with saying they oppose the fascist Republican Party. And what do you think about that? How do we shake the political class of the Democratic Party out of the tropes of, oh, the fever's gonna break, or oh, we need a strong Republican Party? Like, do you believe that? And if not, what do you think we should be saying to regular people that are concerned but don't know what to do?
Well, the Democrats would be abandoning a big portion of their base. I mean, we just had, data come out the other day that showed that the majority of Democrats right now, I think it's like over 60%, especially amongst younger voters, are embracing socialist policies, and they believe more in socialism than capitalism. And so calling the Dems out for that directly and embracing this moment and opportunity where more folks are so dissatisfied and angry with the status quo means that we absolutely need to present an agenda and talk directly to the people about, you are working really hard right now and you deserve better. I'm going to try to make better possible by making sure that, again, childcare, caregiving work, fair wages, taxing the rich. People are realizing now that the system is rigged. And in order to unrig it, we need socialist policies to ultimately improve people's lives and keep folks from fucking dying, because what is happening from the regime is killing us.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And just as a quick aside chat, we are getting close to our first $5,000 goal. So if we could go ahead and throw a couple more dollars here, only spam the link, because this is an opportunity to really seize power in a major state party. A lot of people have made the mistake of thinking that, well, if we run for like party chair as a DSA candidate, that's going to, allow us to control the direction of the party. And the answer is it's actually the people whose butts are in the seats that the party serves. So if we want to change the direction of the Democratic Party or start our own party, we need to have powerful people in positions like the governor's mansions to go forward with. And this is an uncomfortable question because I hate to do this to you, but I have, it's me. So this is what you signed up for.
Yeah, let's go.
Is there any point where you believe that socialists and leftists should exit the Democratic Party and start our own Labor Party, Workers' Party? Because it seems to me that the hostility to even mild social democracy among the Democratic Party elite and the way they so closely cleave to even Republican donors, like, for example, not to keep bringing up New York, but I think it is instructive because they're going to run the same playbook on you, which is you have Cuomo losing the primary and then running as a sore loser independent and then raising money from Donald Trump's donors and billionaires. And so do you think that, like, and the Democratic Party brand is in the toilet because of people like Joe Biden and, you know, the genocidal, you know, record they have and the fact that they failed to deliver positive change for decades for regular people? So do you think that the Democratic Party is the home of socialism, that we can rehabilitate it, we can change it? Or do you think there is a point where maybe something starting fresh and not being encumbered by the Democratic Party's bad brand is a good idea? Because I understand the electoral argument of winning the primary gives you a huge boost in winning the general, but is there a point where the Democratic Party is closed off to democratic change? And I'm sorry to ask you such a difficult question, but I had to.
I am receiving it with open arms right now. Look, nobody likes being told what to do, and I'm not out here to tell leftists how to organize themselves across the country, but I do want us to center building power. And those strategies to gain power and build power is going to look different in different parts of the country. And here in Wisconsin, I associate with the Democratic Party, but we have to do kind of multiple things here because it requires that. And so part of it is kind of breaking down the establishment norms and pushing on them to actually listen to their voters. Many young voters especially don't believe in a two-party system, so then they disengage from politics altogether. We have to expand our electorate. That means kind of, you know, a little bit of infiltration, if you will, where we from the inside have to make sure we have more socialist electeds, but we also have to build out that organizing infrastructure where, especially in Wisconsin, it's hard if you're a socialist in Dunn County in northwestern Wisconsin, and you're going to want resources to be able to build power in your local community. And so this is an organizing question and not so much one of party. And I think that there are so many opportunities right now to build power for socialists, and that means that we have to lean into organizing and growing that organizing. We've got this really cool zine that I worked with my good friend Timothy Faust. It's how to organize your friends and foes, and it is like to have something concrete so that you're able to go to, you know, the rodeo and start talking to people and realizing when you bring up cheaper healthcare and cheaper housing and make sure that like you have like fair wages and we're taxing the rich, I guarantee you someone at the rodeo is going to be into that idea. So being creative and innovative and strong around organizing so that is what we are rooting in to build power for socialists. We have to start thinking about that and sharing those ideas and strategies for folks across the country while being very mindful that where folks are at in different parts of the country, we will have to alter strategy for it. But less about parties and more about building organizing and actually gaining power has to be the goal.
Yeah, I think one thing that I would say, if I could just make a little bit of a comment, is I think of our electoral system is we have this very awkward situation where we have pre-general election forced coalition building. Parliamentary system, we could have 8 different parties and then we win in our various seats and then we join with the parties that are closest positioned to us and we come together in a coalition and we make a deal and I get appointed to, you know, Department of Defense and you get appointed to, something like that. And we do that. But in the we're forced to do that because of the Electoral College. There's so many incentives in forcing these coalitions, and why if we have candidates in the Democratic Party primary, winning that is almost winning the ball game, because they're forced to accept us into positions of power. And the more people we have in positions of power, the more we can demand. And so in places where we could run third party, I want to do it. And if there ever becomes a rupture point, I want us to have as many people elected already as possible. So what I see is, to win the general election, if your best option is to run as a Democrat now, then do it. And then, seize those positions of power, take over the Democratic Party in Wisconsin, and remake it in our image if we can. And I believe that you have a real opportunity to do that, which is why I'm so excited to support you. And I see we
absolutely need that executive power in Wisconsin, because if I was to run as an independent, right, for an assembly seat, and I won, I wouldn't have an office, I wouldn't have staff, I wouldn't have the ability to do my job. But with somebody in the governor's office who would sign legislation, who would change that system, we could change it all the way down the ballot and actually get to some substantive change.
Do you have like electoral reform as one of your platform planks? Like, for example, ranked choice voting, which was so important in Zohran winning, or other things like, maybe something as wild as proportional representation or multi-member districts, or all sorts of ideas that, could make gerrymandering obsolete in Wisconsin, because that was such a challenge for the left for so many years. Is that part of your guys' long-term platform to build power so that it's more robust and less vulnerable to a Republican wave?
That work has already started, and it has broad support. Ranked choice voting has been introduced multiple times in the state legislature. We had an amazing movement that fought for fair maps, and we do need to push and pass legislation that is going to eliminate any options to gerrymander the state. There is currently a movement to do that now. That same Fair Maps Coalition is working to make sure that there's permanent legislation that bans gerrymandering. And so these are absolutely policies that we can build on, and again, have broad support across the state, even from some of the moderate Dems. And so we can make sure that these issues actually unite us more, that they can build bigger coalitions for us, and strengthen democracy. Like, strengthening democracy is a pretty sure way to be able to fight back against fascism. And I think that those opportunities we really have to seize, since they have broad support.
Okay, so this is, again, another difficult question. I'm sorry, but this is what you have to do when you come here. What do you think about fighting fire with fire? Because I see the Republicans, when they had power in Wisconsin, they were completely comfortable with gerrymandering the state. It's basically a non-democracy. You see it happening in Texas right now, where it's like, is it really wise for us to commit to fair maps if they're going to gerrymander? So it's like, tails, they win. Heads, it's 50-50. So it really seems like they are almost incentivized to cheat as much as they can, because they know that when we're in power, we're going to treat them fairly. What about a kind of reciprocal situation where it's like, until we get a national gerrymandering reform, it's our responsibility to gerrymander to counter their gerrymander? Because that is a conversation that's now being had. And I was wondering what you guys think about that as legislators.
I got to go back to movement work and organizing, and it'll be a bit of a hit for us if we advertise ourselves as cheating as well.
Right.
And I know that we can build a strong worker movement that is for building working class power. This, fighting fire with fire sometimes makes bigger fires. And
yes,
I'm not out here to say we can't be bringing daggers to a firefight, right? But they don't have the support of the people. They don't have ways to build actual movements. And that's why they're cheating. And so they're going to break some rules. I'm going to make, I'm going to democratize discomfort for those of us, for those who are in the Dem party and supporting the establishment. And I think they'll be with us in making sure that, we we are fighting with people power, but also we have to call it what it is when fascism comes to our doorstep, and that we're putting our bodies on the line to protect our communities.
Yeah, I mean, I totally respect that, and I don't want to hem you guys in too much. I understand that governing is different than campaigning. I understand. I understand what you're putting down. I get it.
Yeah, and it goes back to power, right? Like the current reality is we also have to build credibility.
Right.
And I don't want to compromise morals because it's our principles that help build moral courage. And we really need that, not just from our electeds, but from the people who are going to be joining as organizers for a movement. And
Yeah.
and jeopardizing some of that credibility when they're always at the ready to attack us, right? Just I don't want to give them any wins, and
No,
and we
I
can be
understand.
strategic and powerful, but like, yeah, I think about what Gavin Newsom says, and folks, talking about fighting fire with fire. I actually respect that, but here in Wisconsin too, where we're going to have different strategies and we can still be unapologetic about it. But this is building a movement takes a lot of work, and it's going to be both. We're going to have some really big victories, and sometimes things that set us back may be, because it sucks to have to do like more branding shit. But you see
Yeah.
how much the Dem brand just being tarnished and what's happening to them, right? Like I want the socialist brand to be something that people are loud and proud about and can, have it be in a movement rooted in joy and care. And maybe that sounds kind of romantic right now, but like being able to care for yourself and have joy and have fun in the movement is also a way to build resistance. And it is a way to resist.
I often, again, maybe this is just something I like to push new ideas rather than just encounter what other people are saying. And I think that things like increasing democratization by, say, lowering the voting age to 16 in Wisconsin for Wisconsin state offices, like being creative in the way we do it in a way that is fair, but by increasing democratization, maybe we could even argue in favor of, like permanent residents having the right to vote, and things like that. Just things that increase democracy rather than having, tried to do the same playbook as the Republicans are doing, right? Like they're always going to be better at cheating and taking corporate money. So the moment that we start accepting that, I don't know if you saw, there was recently a scandal where there are a lot of Democratic Party, what I would call shills online, were being paid secretly in dark money to promote kind of a Democratic Party line, but the creators that were rewarded were people who never spoke up on Palestine, who never challenged the Democratic Party. And so what do you guys think about the influence of dark money in our politics? And do you think there should be more regulation on dark money funding things like online content? Should there be disclosure laws and things like that?
Yes. And I'm going to go back to what you said about lowering the voting age to 16. There is legislation at the ready for it. We also have to pass bills on automatic voter registration from when you turn 18. We have to fucking end prison gerrymandering because that's still a thing in Wisconsin. So absolutely, there are ways to strengthen and democratize how we govern and how people are able to actually make sure their voices are heard. Big money in politics is going to be an uphill battle, but more and more people are recognizing how corporate PACs and corrupt politicians taking money who are going to control how they govern and what policies they stand for and what they're actually fighting for. And so that democratization process is absolutely going to help us fight back on that. And transparency right now, sometimes the shaming works. And I think that when we are forcing transparency, when we are forcing accountability on these elected officials who don't think they're corrupt just because they're taking this money, but that is corruption, and I'm going to call it for what it is, and I think the rest of us have to too.
Yeah, if I had one question, another thing how does the campaign finance system work in Wisconsin? Is there, like, for state level races, is there like a maximum donation? Is there one of the reasons that Zohran was able to be so successful is because of they have a public financing match for small dollar donors. I think it's if you don't take more, you get like 6-1 for residents of New York City that donate to a candidate. So that really helps counter the big money, or at least gives grassroots candidates the ability to compete. Is there something like that in Wisconsin? How bad is the campaign finance system? And is that part of your campaign as well, trying to change the way campaigns are financed in Wisconsin?
We're so stoked in the first like 12, 15 hours of our campaign. We raised almost $40,000 from 1,000 different donors. So the average donation was less than $50.
Well, we just raised another 11K so far.
What?
So... yeah.
Holy shit. Thank you, everyone. Oh my God.
Yes.
But we can do that in Wisconsin. We should be researching and drafting that legislation now so that we can have it ready for when I am governor. But it's a $20,000 max for statewide electeds in the
24K?
20,000 max. And so some of my colleagues are going to get, 20 people who are going to donate 20K and not look at all about where, so that puts me at a disadvantage. Yes, because I'm not gonna I don't know if I'm even sometimes interested in those donors because I don't know where their politics are. And a lot of these people who are doing 20K max outs think that they can always have the ear of the elected. But the grassroots donors, I want to prioritize in making sure that they feel like they are part of this campaign because they are. And even if it's $50 or $2.33, which is a tipped minimum wage we are going to abolish, that money is going a long way in helping them learn more about organizing their communities and making sure that they have a governor that reflects their values. And so there are infrastructure changes we are going to have to make, but people, I think, are recognizing the power of grassroots donors, and we can outwork them. We can make sure we have more people across the country that are supporting our campaign and not some of these moderates.
And Mike, I'm assuming you're going to ask me why the goal right now is $16,546, right?
Yes. Why is that the goal?
So I went and checked. This is a ton of money, and I know Fran's campaign, and I'm so grateful for this. I went and checked how much we got the last time I was on your stream, and it was $8,273, and that was transformative.
We already beat it.
This is double that, right? So if we can get double for this statewide office, that would really give Fran a foot in the door. And it is. These dollars are so vital, especially early on, right? There are going to be people saying this isn't a serious campaign because she's not having people max out to her with $20,000 donations.
No, that's true. Yeah, no, I've always said that, whenever people ask me, Mike, should I run for Congress? I'm like, okay, can you get together 100K from your friends and family? And if you can do that, then I'm with you, and I don't say that to gatekeep working class people. I'm just saying that the reality of campaigns is they're going to spend millions. You need to be part of organizations that can pull together this money. And you guys have always impressed me with the way that you have earned it with blood, sweat, and tears. You traded shoe leather for their bank checks, and you won. And that is the sign of a real campaign for me. And so that's why I'm so happy to be able to help you guys out, because I know that you guys are going to leave everything out on the field. This is a real campaign, and every dollar is precious. So we're gonna work hard, and I'll try to do more, of course, as long as you promise me to work hard, which I know that you will. With Ryan hanging around you, I know he's gonna have the whip hand.
Well, this is why I love my Socialist caucus so much, because I need to be held accountable. There are going to be times where I'm going to be like, where is our political capital? How do we make sure that we build it so that we can burn it? But there needs to be moral ways for us to do that. And it's my colleagues in the Socialist caucus that are helping me do that. And we're going to get everything thrown at us. They're going to drag me through the mud and run me over with buses. And I already have a feeling that I was on Qasim yesterday too. And I've been loud and unapologetic about ensuring that people know about the genocide in Gaza, and that in order for us to be a people for liberation and freedom, that depends on Palestinian freedom. And so as they're now, enduring another phase of this horrific act, of this genocide where they're going to occupy Gaza City, it is more imperative now than ever. While I appreciate so much the support for my campaign, and my campaign team is probably going to hate me for saying this, I encourage everyone. There are local people in every community who here in Madison, it's our Rafa. There is a Rafa community. Oh my gosh, I just talked to them the other day. But look at who in your community is raising funds, who have friends on the front lines in Gaza and the West Bank. How can you support them? It's going to be money. Sometimes it's using your platform. And so this campaign is so important, and we are going to raise what we need to, but I encourage folks to keep taking care of their communities, and some of the folks who are on the ground working to make sure that Gazans and Palestinians everywhere have the support that they need. I encourage you to seek them out and donate to their organizations, and remember that each of us needs to be fighting for Palestinian liberation if we are going to be free.
Yeah, no, and thank you so much for being unequivocal on that. Let me bring it back to Wisconsin and the importance of like a left-wing governance. Like one of the things that we're really big into here on the Central Committee stream is trains and public transit and transforming the way that we live, and making us parts of communities as the design, right? I think so much of what's gone wrong in our country is that we've all pulled into our own little bubbles and we're not existing in spaces with other people. And so do you see like a major public transportation push to be part of what you think would be good investment for Wisconsin going forward?
During the Scott Walker reign of terror, he fucking got rid of our trains. I believe they are being used, well, in a country in Africa right now. I'm forgetting where. That was by design to divide and distract our communities. So folks in Madison, Milwaukee would be disconnected from folks in Bayfield and Sheboygan, and then we haven't been able to recognize till this moment right now that a lot of our struggles, our collective struggles for folks, working class people all across the state. So how we come back together, absolutely need to talk about public transit, because in smaller communities, it's not like they can just call an Uber, right? There are very few Uber drivers in their area. People are struggling to get to work. We have bus driver shortages right now. Especially as defunding public education has impacted our rural communities the most. A lot of our students aren't able to go to their community school. And so they're on the bus for like half an hour or so. There aren't enough bus drivers. There are not enough buses. Like in Milwaukee County, and Ryan, you can probably weigh in on this more, like, what if we started with making buses free in Milwaukee and then Madison, and making sure that infrastructure template is then available for smaller communities? Because what is good for Milwaukee is good for the entire state. And one of the reasons that we've gotten divided, and Milwaukee has been an absolute scapegoat and targeted, also because it is the largest population of Black people that we have in our state. They don't get that when Milwaukee is strong, Wisconsin is strong. And so we absolutely do have to connect with one another, and fuck, free buses for all. Like, Ryan, we got to work on legislation to make that happen.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I tried proposing that at the county level. I think I was on Mike's stream the first time when I was running to be a county supervisor, and they said no. Not the people were really into that. In fact, the actual cost of the bus ride is $7 or $8 in Milwaukee right now. And the fare is $2. So we should rip off that Band-Aid, make it free. And transit is vital. Every time I make that drive from Milwaukee to Madison, knowing that we could have had light rail if it wasn't for the last terrible governor, it really just underlines the idea that we have to get Fran in that seat.
Yeah, and that Yeah, because I don't, obviously there's so many important things happening nationally and internationally, and I appreciate you guys humoring me on that. But the other aspect of what I see as a successful method is the laser focus on affordability, because so many of us are facing crises of student loan debt, of housing shortages, housing costs, food costs, childcare, just basically living a working class life is more and more out of reach for people. And so you see affordability as the cornerstone of what you think socialist governance really is about.
Absolutely. And talking about affordability, especially when folks are just suffering from rising costs. When we talk about universal childcare and universal healthcare, childcare for all, healthcare for all, paid leave for all, folks, I talk about it in the frame that it makes it more affordable for you to live the life that you deserve, right? And so having free healthcare means that you might have more funds to be able to put into your community and your local small businesses. You may be able to, like, rest is a right. You might, leisure is a right. You might be able to take more vacations. I think when a lot of folks on the right and Republicans and a lot of working class people even have been conditioned to believe that, like, you have to work for all of this, and people have been working and the government is still not delivering, putting in the context of when these services are more affordable or free, that is giving you freedom to spend your dollars the way that you see fit. And student loan debt we can tackle from the state level, especially for folks who are going to work in public service or the public sector. That affordability piece, saying that we can have cheaper healthcare in Wisconsin, is the type of populist economic messaging that the Dems have struggled with for so long. They call it kitchen table issues, and they don't actually talk about what should be at the kitchen table.
Right.
And so affordability is a huge part of our campaign, but also recognizing that the messaging strategy around it has to acknowledge the pride of people who know that they work hard and want to provide for their families, and they want to, care for their neighbor too, and make sure their neighbor isn't suffering. These are things that we have to have real conversations about, which is, again, why organizing is so important, because we do need to figure out ways, and that's through a populist economy message, a socialist message on policy, but getting there is going to take being relatable, being, showing up in bars and bowling alleys and pro wrestling matches to have these conversations. But people want things to be cheaper, and they deserve that, and they should have that, and the government has a responsibility to make that happen.
Thank you so much for that. There's one specific policy that I think just was passed in New Mexico for universal childcare. Is that something that you are excited about, and do you think that is something that might be attractive to people? Because I know childcare expenses have become, it's like a second mortgage.
It's more expensive than college.
I mean, like, this is insane. This is crazy. And we have schools and institutions in every community that we could be building up with even more, we could get children into an educational environment even earlier, which we know through science is the best way to improve their further, academic performance and their life outcomes. And so it's a win-win. Investing in young children is the best way to improve society. So is that something that you're excited in? And New Mexico is a lot poorer than Wisconsin. So if they can do it, can you do it?
Absolutely. I'm so proud of the folks in New Mexico for doing that. We also have a good movement in Vermont. We have a study right now, showing us how we can make affordable, free childcare for working class families who make under 400% of the federal poverty line. And so that's $100,000 for a family of four. If we cap childcare between 8 to 10% of income for more families, it's folks are going to save tens of thousands of dollars. And we also have to be very mindful of how the childcare infrastructure, because it hasn't been considered infrastructure, has been decimated, and providers have to be able to retain the people who care for our children, and they deserve fair wages and good working conditions. So providers
And a
also need to
union.
ensure that they have, and a union, they need to be able to access subsidies that are provided by the state so that they can stay open and their workers are able to take care of themselves. I mean, if we don't invest in our kids, who's going to take care of us when we're old?
I mean, that's one way of putting it.
I'm just like, these folks are like, even Republicans who complain to me about how difficult it is to find care for their aging parents. Because also, by the way, privatization of nursing homes is slowly happening everywhere. And it is also where I'm finding, yeah, moderates and folks in, you know, who may not be outspoken about other working class issues, they are organizing and showing up at their county board meetings and saying, fuck this, you are not having a private equity firm take over a nursing home and compromising the quality of care. And so this is, when we take care of our children, we're also investing in making sure that we are taking care of our elders. And so and again, care work is some of the most difficult work there is. It is emotionally laborious. It is mentally taxing, but folks do it because they know that everyone deserves to live a life of dignity.
So true. And I want to say that, like, in Pennsylvania, this is one of the things that, you know, we had a strong public nursing home system, you know, 5-star nursing homes, SCI union nurses, you know, we had a very strong coverage for our seniors. It was one of the prides of Pennsylvania. And in some counties they've held on, but wherever, you know, the kind of centrist Democrats like Josh Shapiro took power, they would privatize these, you know, state assets, city, county assets, and it ended up being more expensive and the quality of care got worse. And so do you think
that part? Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's just means tested programs are more expensive and inefficient when we have universal school meals. One of the things that, educators talk about, administrators talk about, is that the administrative costs and all that paperwork of trying to figure out who qualifies. We have families right now who don't want to share their income information, where it's dangerous for them to have to fill something out where they have to provide more information.
Right.
But imagine if we move away from these, means tested programs and have universal programs, they are more efficient and cost less.
Yeah, no, I think that is something that I really like about the new wave of socialists, is that it's not just about pie in the sky programs for everybody. It's actually, we save money. Medicare for All would save $500 billion a year at 60,000 lives. How could we afford not to do Medicare for All, right? How could we afford not to have childcare if it results in less? That's the thing that can reduce crime or antisocial behavior. It's when people are given compassion and throughout their lives, when they feel connected to their communities. So I don't know how much more time you guys had, because it is we're coming up on the hour. You let me know what you guys want to do. But we are currently at $14,877. So, chat, the goal was $16,546 to dunk on Ryan and say how much better Fran was at raising money than Ryan was. So whatever a white man gets put in his place, chat, that's a win. No, I'm kidding. Of course.
Oh, funny thing, I had to try to recruit Ryan to be in my campaign video because I didn't have enough white men. So I was like scrambling towards the end. I think
Don't worry, I'll help you with that. I'll help you with that. I got all the white men. Okay. If you want a white man who's 30 years old, the Central Committee stream is the place for you. Which is good. You know, I just want to point, this is actually a good thing. Zohran won young white men in New York, like in the primary, but that's a good sign. He's not doing that by compromising on feminism or on reproductive rights, which I know is a very important issue for you as well. Because there's so much to talk about. So I want to highlight that you care deeply about trans people. You care deeply about the immigrant communities. You care deeply about reproductive rights, and I want to give you the opportunity to speak on those issues as well, if you would, if you're interested. Please do.
Yeah, too many electeds, go out and say, I want to be a voice for the people. But the responsibility of an elected official when you're growing your platform is to give that platform to people to be able to share their stories. And that actually helps folks connect to other people in their communities, recognizing that they are struggling as well. One of the things that I love most about Ryan and his fight for trans rights, and to ensure that we are preserving the humanity of trans people. They just want to live their lives. And he does an amazing job of making sure that trans folks have spaces where they get to share their power, their stories, and they get to take up space. And so fighting for trans rights is a lot about ensuring that trans people get to, if it's a safe situation for them, share that this is about dignity and shared humanity, and folks just want to be able to take care of their families. Reproductive freedom, I mean, this is reproductive health care, right? We would be denying health care to people if we go after reproductive rights.
Yes.
One more thing that I don't think gets mentioned enough about around abortion is that abortion workers, they support policies like paid leave for all and childcare because they know some of the most vulnerable pregnant people that they are helping through in an incredibly traumatic, not traumatic for everyone, I should note, but they see that those folks struggle to get there because they didn't have someone to take care of their kids, or they couldn't take time off of work without compromising their paycheck. So abortion freedom and reproductive rights, it is a paid leave, childcare, and guaranteed, working wages issue as well. And then our amazing immigrant, migrant, doesn't matter what your status is, they are neighbors who contribute so much to our community. I mean, between food and culture and the way that they are so generous in sharing, the way that, like, how they view the world and where they're coming from, I want platforms like mine to be a place where we uplift and celebrate with them. It shouldn't just be about like stories of struggle and talking about how these are folks who are just vulnerable. No, these are folks who have deserve to share how vibrant, dynamic, and how talented they are. I mean, it would be so cool if we had like food trucks of all different ethnic foods, like travel across the country and make stops, and folks get to celebrate. Like, imagine if we only had meat and potatoes, right? Like, I'm not going to knock cheese, but I really love being able to go to my local Tibetan restaurant, talk to Namgyal, who also just opened this amazing grocery store. Now we finally have an Asian grocery store in our North Side neighborhoods. But elected officials have a responsibility to share stories so that we're not just having the narrative be about only struggle. Like, these folks help us have more joy.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, well, thank you guys so much. Did you want to stay on for a closing statement, or do you have a place to be?
Oh, I want to stay on.
Okay, we can stay on.
I'm
raising money, chat, so they want to stay on.
I also really, I'm here for more questions, more hard questions for you. Like, I'm actually very much like, everything is fair game. I think my campaign team's probably not going to be thrilled I just said that, but I want to talk to anyone and everyone. No,
I get it. I'm really excited for you guys, and I feel like you have a real shot here because I think people are hungry for change. I think there was a long time where people understandably said, hey, we need to stop Trump. So if that means that we have to think small, believe small, just to, survive the storm, then we're going to do that. But I think that strategy has been so proven thoroughly wrong that people are kind of coming out and saying, you know what? Why don't we dream big and fight for something big and believe in something again? And, all the people saying that being small is going to win, that didn't work. And so I think this is our moment if we can get leaders who are actually willing to take on the tough fights and honestly fight against the donor class. And in every state, it's the same. I know Pennsylvania and Wisconsin are both swing states. I know that your politics is, the same things that are being said about Milwaukee are being said about Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, right? Like the same things that are being done to, cause fear of immigrants are being done there. The same attacks on public transit. Right now, we're in a huge fight in Pennsylvania. Governor, supposed Democrat Josh Shapiro is sitting there while SEPTA, which is Philadelphia's, southeastern Pennsylvania's, transit authority, is being defunded by the Republicans. We are fighting tooth and nail with the same fights as you guys are. It's a national fight. And
right. And in 2025 and 26, like, people want fighters. It's not,
Exactly.
The Dems are still using this old playbook where it's like, well, if we just look enough like Republicans, maybe some Republicans will cross over. But that's not working. That same study that dropped that said that socialism was more popular than capitalism, if you drill down into it, it talks about, it would put in front of the survey respondents, if you had a democratic socialist, fighting for immigrants or fighting for trans folks, as opposed to the same candidate who just stayed silent on those, the ones who were doing the right thing won by 50, 60 points. It wasn't even close. So yeah, the days of just, standing by and hoping that the Republicans will magically be better if we just don't challenge them are long gone.
I'll go and say, folks, yes, they want fighters. They also want brawlers and not betrayers. I think a lot of people feel betrayed by a party that doesn't seem to show that they're willing to fight, especially those who are leading the party nationally. It's why folks like AOC and Bernie and Zohran are, have such high approval rates and are liked and looked up to because people want to join the fight and the movement because of leaders like that. And it is fascism by design is, they try to take away our ability to have a vision for better, to dream, to imagine better. And I think that knowing that things can be better and we deserve to be able to do bold, challenging things and hard things, that in itself is an act of resistance. And I think everyone's going to find their own way to fight and build community power. But it's important to know that, dreaming, knowing that, we can be visionaries is powerful in itself.
All right. Well, I just donated 500 myself just so we could blast through the goal. So I think we're going to be closing in on 17,000 for the stream. So thank you guys so much. Yeah. I'll see what I could do as well. I have a few ideas for people that might be able. I could hopefully get behind you. Produce more social media stuff for us, would you?
Absolutely. My digital team is pretty amazing, and I'm starting to feel more comfortable making fucking videos. And apparently now I have to go on TikTok, but I'll do it.
No, we do.
I'll do it.
If you could give me something that I can juice, and I have a lot of friends. We're in trouble. They're targeting us, just so you know. They don't like me. They don't like Hassan. So if I don't get arrested or deplatformed, I will do my best to push you guys. So please convince, and if you know anybody to have our back a little bit, that would be nice.
And Ryan and I will lead with all of your amazing subscribers the protest movement to make sure that the fascists don't win, and you have your amazing platform to reach so many people and validate and justify their very righteous anger and need to fight back.
Absolutely.
And real quickly too, if I know I put this stream out to our email list and a lot of socials too. If you're just showing up here and this is your first time, subscribe to Mike's stuff. He has a lot of amazing insight.
Thank you guys. Yeah.
Some Twitch infighting that I don't totally understand, but I'm on Mike's side because he's Mike. But Mike, thank you so much for this and for all you've done for my campaigns over the years.
Thank you.
Stop undercutting it. It's huge. And thank you.
The thing about me is I'm loud and I get angry sometimes. And, I feel like that is something that we all are feeling right now. And as a white dude, sometimes, you know, I put my foot in my mouth. It happens. But I try to make sure that we put the, you know, marginalized voices first here. You know, we are unabashedly pro-trans, pro-Palestinian, pro-immigrant, and unabashed socialists, you know. So that's what we are. That's what we do here. And we support both electoral work and non-electoral work. We're going to keep doing everything we can to boost that. And if somebody doesn't like me, all I can say is solidarity. I will be your comrade. I don't need to be your friend. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay. You don't have to love me as long as we're pulling in the same direction, right? Like, we're on the same oar. Let's just row together. And so, yeah, thank you guys so much.
And then we'll lift all boats.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's row together and lift all boats.
We're going to row up the waterfall. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, that's what we're doing here. So thank you guys so much. Is there anything else that you wanted to, I want to maybe give you guys 5-10 minutes of, you know, your elevator pitch about what this race means and how you're going to win it and what issues you're passionate about.
We have to meet this moment with a movement. And I fucking love this state. This is where I'm raising my family as a single mom. My parents are Korean immigrants. They've lived in Wisconsin longer than anywhere else in the world. It is where I have failed. I had to close my restaurant of 7 years, but I still work in the service industry. So I have this beautiful community of dishwashers and bartenders and servers and line cooks that still let me work for them. And I think that as a community organizer, I am able to meet this moment to make sure that our movement is powered by working class people who deserve better, but also they deserve the economic security and prosperity that is sustainable, that can continue in their community and make them stronger. And we're going to be able to do that when we have universal childcare, guaranteed paid leave, fully funded public schools, making sure small businesses can access cheaper healthcare to afford cheaper healthcare for their workers, and moving towards free healthcare. And then the care workers, right? I have to keep uplifting how the folks who are doing this care work, home health care workers, long-term care workers, nurses, mental health workers have fair wages and good working conditions, and the state can absolutely do more to support that. If we're going to be fighting for freedom here in Wisconsin, we also have to be mindful of liberation movements across the world, acknowledging that the disability justice movement, the civil rights movement, folks have been able to build more to do better for working class people. And a quick shout out to folks, the creatives, right? It's artists, it's poets, it's actors, it's musicians who have gotten us to overcome some of the biggest crises that have happened in history. Listen to artists, support them. They also need to make sure that they're able to make a living. But I'm just grateful to you, Mike, and all your subscribers for tuning in today, for supporting this campaign. We're going to stay fighting. We're going to stay fighting until wherever the end is.
Thank you, Fran. Okay, I have one more question for Ryan. If somebody is in the greater Wisconsin area, how can they get involved that doesn't involve money? Give us the calls to action for people that have time.
Yeah, so thank you. The first thing you would do would be go to francescahong.com/volunteer, and you can join the many, many passionate folks who are really going to make this campaign a success. And then I was going to ask you, Mike, when are you going to come visit? Like, you're already clearly part of my campaign and Fran's campaign.
Yeah.
Come get on the ground with us.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just, yeah, totally. I will. Don't put me on the spot to give you a date right today, but I will. 100,000%. We'll do something. We can come hang out. Maybe if you have some get together, an organizing event, I can come hang out, and I would love to.
That would be huge. I've never actually seen you in person, so we can do like a brewery tour. We'll have some cheese, do some Wisconsin things. It'll be great.
Yes, I
I'll
can't
make
wait.
sure that we've got really good food, and I'll actually cook myself and bring some of my other chef friends to make some of your favorites as well.
I would love to see you do, just as a suggestion, do some sort of like cooking. Like this is a meme in TikTok where you like cook, but then you start talking about other shit over it. That might be something fun to do.
They
Thank you
stole that
guys.
from me, Mike. I'm just gonna
They
say
stole that from you?
yeah, we have Share the Table series, especially during COVID. I would bring folks into that campaign, and we would cook, whatever. Sometimes I would share my own recipes, and we would be trying those. But it was cooking with Hong, and I even
Beautiful.
got folks from Congress to be able to, do hand-pulled noodles with me. And so we love cooking and we love cooking up policies.
All right. Well, I am throwing your website in the chat right now, and let's see where we got. Right now, the fundraising is at $70,414.01. We kicked your ass, Ryan.
I'm so grateful to have my ass kicked in that way. That is huge. That's gonna go so far.
All right. Well,
Shout out
thank
to the
you.
1 cent too. That's awesome.
Down to 1 cent. Yes. Awesome. Somebody was just trying to, be special. W 1 cent. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you guys so much for coming on. We'll have you on again. And I promise to come to Wisconsin. Definitely. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Solidarity.
Thanks,
Solidarity
Mike.
forever,
Appreciate
my
y'all.
friends.